first, it just felt like any other evening. I was lying in bed, browsing Facebook Marketplace for shitty cars I don't need. Then I saw something familiar. 2011 base Boxster.
It's a base Boxster.
Porsche Racing Green.
Porsche Racing Green.
6-speed manual.
With a 6-speed manual transmission.
Is this my car? The car that I bought on a whim last Thanksgiving, only to hastily sell a few months later, causing me to drown in a sea of regret for the many months following?
There you have it.
No, actually, it isn't that car. But it's damn close. And it's a good deal. Well, this is a new one. I bought it. I bought a car in the exact same color and the exact same spec as a car I already owned and decided to sell over a year ago. Except the difference is, this one is much worse in almost every way. So why would I buy it? To answer that question, we need to go for a drive.
See, over the last several years, I've bought a lot of cars, no doubt. But I've also done a lot of thinking. And in that time and all that thinking, oh God. I forgot how much I love this car. It's just so good. It's just so good. It's not even warm. I gotta warm it up. It's an awfully chilly day for a drive. I can't push it too hard. These tires are summer tires. And it is about 40 degrees. So I'm gonna be careful today. So over the last 2 years, I've bought and sold 8 or 9 Porsches now. And each time that I would sell was an opportunity for me to go spelunking into my feelings and try to understand why that car didn't work for me. And when I look back over the last 2 years, I realize now that the reason almost every single time was the same. The cars that I like to buy are imperfect. Because as much as I enjoy driving them, so much of the enjoyment I get from owning these cars is from working on them with my own hands. It's from pouring blood, sweat, and tears into making them perfect. And that incredible feeling of satisfaction when you realize that you have done your part to keep that car on the road. And it's my goal as an owner of them to improve them. I want to sell them in better shape than I bought them in. And so what that means is buying a car that needs some love. Buying a car with good bones, but that hasn't been given the attention it deserves. Buying a car that beneath the swirl marks and cracked headlight lenses and worn out suspension components is a great car. It just needs someone to care for it. That's where the satisfaction of ownership is for me, and that's how I've ended up with the cars I've ended up with. And also why I've sold the cars that I've sold. Take, for example, my 2021 C2S in British Racing Green. Unbelievable car, a dream car for me in a lot of ways, but it needed nothing. It was perfect. It was under warranty, the maintenance was prepaid. What was I to do? The cars that are gonna stand the test of time in my collection are cars that I put a lot of work into. And it's not sunk cost fallacy or anything like that. It's because I feel a connection to things that I work on with my hands. It's so hard to take it easy on a cold day like this. I just want to rip. God.
All right, I'm gonna fold these towels and then we can give the Boxster its first wash, after which we can assess the state of it. I plumbed hot water into my pressure washer like a month ago. Best thing I ever did. It's like 35 degrees out, and I can still feel my fingers. It's pretty nice. I gotta say, it's actually a pretty good 10 feet car. Like that looks pretty good from here, right? So let's talk about what this car needs. The good news is, mechanically, this car is actually in really great shape. I only have service records for the last 7 or 8 years, but so far as I can tell, it's been really well maintained and there's been no major issues. I've driven the car about 80 miles now, and honestly, everything feels really good. The engine at 95,000 miles feels just as strong as my last car did at 23,000 miles. The transmission shifts beautifully. The clutch was just replaced about 10,000 miles ago, so that feels great. The brakes feel good, steering is perfect, everything feels really great. I do, of course, need to do what I do as soon as I get any of my cars, which is replace all the fluids and all the filters. The other good news is the condition of the convertible top. This car was optioned with the brown convertible top instead of the standard black, which is pretty unusual, and it's actually in really good shape. It definitely needs a deep clean and it definitely needs to be protected, but there's no tears, there's no fraying. Overall, it's in really great shape. Now onto the stuff that isn't so great. First thing I noticed is the radio doesn't work. The head unit powers on, but there's no sound coming out of the speakers. I kind of expected this. The previous owner did tell me that he had had some intermittent issues with it, which would lead me to believe that the amp is dying or dead now. Also, the shifter is a little bit loose. Overall, it feels pretty good. It's just, there's a little bit of play in it. I'm gonna replace the shifter bushings with the Function First bushing kit. I did that on my 996 as well. It's great. I'd use new brake rotors all around. The rears actually aren't that bad, but the front have a pretty substantial lip on them, so I'll do that. And while I'm doing that, I'm actually gonna paint the calipers as well. The base Boxster calipers are unpainted from the factory. I see a lot of people paint them red. I'm not crazy about red calipers on a green car. It's just a little Christmassy, so I think I'll just I'll paint those black. On that note, the wheels on this car are Carrera S 19-inch wheels. They're nice wheels, but I'm not crazy about 19-inch wheels on 987s. I think they look a little bit too big and they don't ride as well. Additionally, the wheels that are on this car are not in great shape. I've actually already ordered new wheels that should be coming in a couple of weeks. One of the things that stood out to me immediately was the condition of the headlights and the taillights. It's not great. I thought I might be able to get away with refinishing them, but they're too far gone. The lenses across the board will have to be replaced, and I think with the taillights I have to replace the whole assembly, which is too bad, but they will look good when they're brand new. Sticking with the outside, let's talk about the paint. The paint overall is in pretty good condition. It's certainly swirled. I don't think it's ever had any kind of coating or wax on it, as evidenced by when I washed it. I think this is the least hydrophobic car I've ever washed. It's crazy. The water's just like sticking to it. It's unbelievable. But overall, it's not in bad shape. I think with a good paint correction and a coating, it's gonna clean up really nicely. I actually did a test spot on the front fender yesterday to just see what I could do with a single stage correction, and it came out great. So I think this paint's gonna clean up really nicely. The elephant in the room, and the only thing that really bothers me about the exterior of this car, is the front bumper. This car was backed into in a parking lot a number of years ago, and after that, it had one of the worst front bumper resprays I think I've ever seen. There's overspray in a number of areas. It's very clear they didn't even remove the bumper to spray it. The color match is pretty terrible. It's difficult to tell in video, but in person you can see how terrible it is, so I definitely need to take care of that. There's some other little exterior things, like the Porsche badge on the hood is a little bit faded and needs to be replaced. The windshield wiper cowl is really faded. I think it's faded beyond restoration. So I'm gonna replace that as well, and a couple of other little plastic bits around the car that could just be refreshed. And while I'm having the bumper resprayed, I'm also going to replace the bumperettes in the back and have those sprayed as well. The bumperettes did their job. It looks like it was hit by a shopping cart or something at some point. So there's some little gouges and scuffs. It'd be nice to just replace those and get them freshly painted. While we're on the back of the car, the other thing that drives me nuts about this car, and it drives me nuts about all of the cars from this generation, is the exhaust tip. This single rounded rectangle exhaust tip, I just hate it. So I'm gonna upgrade that to the dual exhaust tips. I did that on my last car as well. It looks substantially better. That pretty much sums up all of the stuff I kind of need to do. And then there's a whole bunch of elective stuff that I think I'll probably end up carrying out as well. I do want to replace the engine mount and the transmission mounts. I don't have any record of it ever being done, so in that case it's overdue. I'm not feeling anything weird, but I often find that you don't feel anything weird until you replace them and realize how good it's supposed to feel. And then there's suspension. These base Boxsters sit pretty high, so I do want to look into suspension options and think about what I could do. I had always planned on doing coilovers on the last car, Öhlins or KWs, but I never got around to doing it. Maybe this will be the car to do it too. And then of course, refreshing all the suspension arms, control arms, and all of that kind of stuff is on the list at some point as well. But again, right now, it all feels pretty good. Oh, also, while I'm doing a paint correction working on the outside, I'm also going to do a super deep interior detail as well. Overall, it looks pretty good, but there's 95,000 miles of dirt and grime in this car that could really be cleaned up. And some of the leather surfaces, specifically the handbrake lever, I think is worn to the point of not being restorable. So I may end up replacing that as well. Also, the center console and all the sort of soft touch plastics around this car that typically tends to wear in this generation has worn, so I'm going to refinish all of that too. But otherwise, the interior looks and feels really great. Oh, also, this car has all-weather floor mats in it. I don't know who made that decision. Why would you put all-weather floor mats in a Boxster? I don't understand. So those are going to get replaced, and they're going to get replaced with Cocoa mats, because that's what I put in every single Porsche that I buy, and I absolutely love them. Okie dokie, let's get to work, shall we? I think the first thing I'm going to try to do is fix the radio, because to be honest, it's not that fun driving around in this car without it. Oh, actually, while I'm in the interior, I may just do the shifter bushings at the same time, because I'm right there. We'll see.
To sing a song, it went like angels watching fly by it, but it does sound kinda nice.
Okay, so the replacement amp did fix my stereo, so that's good news. Although I have decided that I really don't like the head unit that's in this car. I'm gonna replace it with my favorite head unit, which is the Dynavin, I think now is the D9 or P9 or something like that. It's really nice, it looks almost OEM, and in the absence of a PCCM Plus for this generation of car, it's, I think, probably the next best thing. I also installed the function first shifter bushings, but the play in the shifter is not totally gone. It's improved, but definitely not to where it should be. So I think anyway that the cable ends are deteriorated and need to be replaced as well. Last night I went on a bit of a shopping spree and ordered a whole bunch of parts to address the various things that I mentioned earlier in this video. Until those start to arrive, there's not a whole lot more I can do, with the exception of an oil change, which I'm gonna carry out today. And then I'm gonna go for a nice rip in it and make sure that everything else is still feeling good. All right, let's get it up in the air and do an oil change.
I figured out why there's still slop in the shifter. Check this out.
That's the slop I'm feeling. And it turns out that this piece up here, this linkage, is the old version. But what this is telling me is that these are original shifter cables, or at least the original design, which Porsche's discontinued. So now I'm adding that to my list.